really, really popular. Copies are made of it. Small copies are made for it. Etchings are made. Paintings are made. People go mad for it. Because at that particular time, people were into Greek and Roman pieces. You know, that was the fashion at that particular time. At first, he decided he wasn't going to allow any full-sized copies to be made. But eventually relented. Lonsdale, you have the Lonsdale belt. He managed to persuade him to allow him to get casts made. But he never got around to making them, right? But they were used, they were sent over to Paris, and 2 bronze copies were made, full-size copies were made. The Queen has one, and there's another down in Cambridge. It's out in a garden. The Scottish connections, the person who found the pieces originally was a man called Gavin Hamilton. He was Scottish. Nominally, William Hamilton was Scottish, right? Because his folk, you know, he was born in England, but nominally he was. And the garden that the pieces were found in had originally belonged to Hadrian. He gave Hadrian's Wall. Copies, as I say, were made. In fact, that's the one that's in Cambridge. But if you see the Australian Open Tennis Championship, it's based on the Warwick vase, and you get lots of different copies, things like that. They made commemorative tokens that they could sell at Warwick Castle, so they're making money out of it, right? And even up to today, if you wanted to go to authentic Provence, you can buy a terracotta pot that is designed, it's shaped like the Warwick vase.
Okay.
When it was bought, when it was taken to Warwick, eventually the family decided they wanted some money, and it was either the late 60s or the early 70s, they put a lot of their collection up for sale, and this came up for sale, and it was bought by the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And what they did was they made arrangements, and they said, right, you'll get it over. So they got a special area, and they sorted out the floor, right? And then the government put an export ban on it. And they said, this is a treasure that has to be saved for the nation. So they went to the British Museum and said, would you like to buy it? And they went, nope, right? And our trustees stepped in and said, we'll buy it. They had a wee bit of help, but they spent over £250,000 on this, £250,000, and this was in the early 70s, right? Late 60s or early 70s. Burrell had never, ever, ever spent money like that on anything. This was the highest amount of money that had ever been spent, but it was our trustees, they were the people who were left to use up money that Burrell had left, and people donated. Now, the reason a lot of my fellow guides don't particularly like this piece, I look on it as a showstopper. Right? When Burrell had decided he was going to transfer his collection over for the public to look at, he looked at pieces and he thought, they're going to want to come and see things that go wow, right? So he was thinking of you coming here and going, wow, you know, that's something. I think that's the wow factor, and the trustees have got a wow factor. It's probably worth a hell of a lot more than £250,000 now, you know.
Good investment.
I think most of it. Mind your feet on the edges.
Okay.
Another of my fellow guides, she tells the story of when she was at school. We went to Warwick Castle on a trip, and she and her friends went into the greenhouse to have their lunch, and at the end of it they all threw their wrappers and things into the vase. Do you want to hear about this?
Yes.
Right. It's the sort of thing you look at and you think, who in their right mind would want to buy something like that? Well, obviously Burrell.
Yep.
Right? It came up for sale in 1920, and I'll use you as an example. This is the sort of thing he did. He would say, right, Jim, he says, you would get contact with one of his agents, and they would say, right, you're going to go and you're going to bid on behalf of Mr. Burrell so that nobody knew you, nobody knew that Burrell was interested.
Yeah.
That was the sort of thing he did. I don't know if it happened at this particular auction. And you'd be told, right, you've got £350. And that was it. Right? No more. Right? Unfortunately for you, there was another fella there, and he was representing William Randolph Hearst. Have you heard of William Randolph Hearst?
No.
Okay. Multi-millionaire from America. Money to burn. He was a wealthy, born into a wealthy, very wealthy family, and had created more wealth, in his time, and was obsessive about collecting. There's a story of him getting a telephone call from one of his agents saying, but I'm up against, I don't know, it was Rockefeller or whoever, right? And Hearst more or less saying, why are you calling me? I want it. In other words, he had so much money, there was no way you were going to get it. He was going to outbid everybody. That was his remit. He could do that. So what did he win? This is the front door into Hornby Castle, which is a castle in the north of England. There are still parts of it remaining, but it's in private hands. Right? At the time that this was built, it belonged to a man called William Conyers, but it wasn't just Mr. Conyers, he was Baron William Conyers. Can you see the wee crown up there, the wee coronet? That tells you that he was a baron.
Okay.
If you look underneath at the coat of arms, there's a variety of different coats of arms there, but the two that I'm going to tell you about are the two crosses, and they represent a family called Neville, who were in fact connected with the Warwicks, right?
Okay.
The Neville family were one of the most influential, richest and most powerful families in England at that time.
Yep.
He'd been created a baron by Henry VIII in 1509. One of the first things that Henry did was create people that were loyal to him, and he had been created a baron then. But the Neville family, he's telling you, he's not just connected once but twice to them, because his mother was a Neville, right? So he has Neville blood in him, and his wife was a Neville, so she has Neville blood in her. Keep it in the family. Un Dieu, un roi, one God, one king. It's the old French spelling of king. Right?
Yep.
He was Henry's man up in the north of England. And when he gets the call in 1513 saying, we've got a wee bit of a problem here, the Scots are invading, he gets the order, get the troops together because we're going to go and fight them. Right? And we know that troops were stationed in and around Hornby Castle before they went off to fight at Flodden. And he was a commander of troops at Flodden, right? Now, the Scots got a gubbin, right? English were victorious. Did he get money? Did he get position? Did he get extra credit for being on the winning side? Absolutely. We don't know what he got, but absolutely he would get all that. Did he use some of the money to build this? Quite possibly. We don't know. But basically that's what this is. It's the front door into the Great Hall of Hornby Castle.
Okay.
When you came in, the large door that you came in at the front, that was the entrance into the courtyard of Hornby Castle. So that archway that's on the outside was from Hornby, and the door was from Hornby as well.
Okay.
That's the one you would come in your horse, right? Or come in the carriage, and it would be brought into the courtyard, and you'd get out and you'd go into the house here. Now I said that Hearst won it, so how did we end up getting it? Well, eventually the Hearst estate was broken up because he died. He also lost a lot of money during the recession, and he was forced to sell things at one time. But this, I think, came into the collection later on. Mm-hmm. Do you want to have a wee guess at how much Burrell paid for it? They reckon that it cost Hearst over £2,000. By the time he had got it all dismantled or got it all into boxes, he created it all and took it over to America, because he had a big stately home over in America that he was building up, right? It's still, you can still go to see that in California. It's called Simeon.
Okay. 10,000? 100,000?
£150.
£150?
And that included postage and packaging. From, I'm told, Hearst had a stately home-like hutton down in Wales called St Donat's, and that's where the auction had taken place.
Cool.
So he got it for £150 from there. And of course, he bought the arch and he bought the door as well. He also bought a whole collection of other stonework. I don't know, I've still to find out who. I keep saying this and I just never find, I mean to ask, who do I ask to find this out? The architect who designed the building, Gasson. Every window, see the window you see up here?
Yep.
Right? Every window and every arch that you see in this building that's been incorporated into this building originally came from the Hearst Collection. Now, I don't know why he chose, maybe it's just simply because they're the best pieces, but we do have pieces from other collections, because that was another thing that Burrell said. When I give you my collection, I want it kept together. So we are standing on over 7,000 pieces, right, under the floor in the vaults.
Oh, okay.
Right? We've got about over 9,000 pieces in the collection, and we've got about 2,000 pieces out on show, and the rest are in the vaults under your feet.
Right.
Right? A few pieces in the Kelvin Grove. Right, that's it. So you can pick up one of these later on. I'm going to be talking a wee bit about that. Okay, come through. This is the door that was fitted into this particular door. You can see the initials W.A., William and Anne, right? And they're quite unusual, upside down. We're allowed to touch this part
But not
here,
that.
but not the part there.
just
So
it.
this is all a modern fire door, the oak that it's been fitted into, and that's it. But turn your camera down, because that's the oldest thing in the building. It's over 200 million year old. It's an ammonite.
Oh yeah, fossil.
Okay.
Cool.
So one of the other things that Burrell said was that he wanted the collection housed at least 16 miles from the centre of Glasgow, or whatnot. And the reason behind that, two reasons. First of all, the Stirling Maxwell family gave over Pollock Park, and then we got the Clean Air Act. Because in 1944, if you cast your mind back to that time, folk were dropping bombs on us, and it was a really, really polluted area to live in. So he wanted his stuff out into the countryside. Gasson has brought us here, and I think this is why he won the competition, because he's not just taking us into the countryside, he's letting the countryside come in. Even down to the pillars. If you look at the pillars are rounded to reflect the trees. It's that sort of feel to it. Now I'll give you a choice. Do you want to hear about some magic dolls? Would you like to hear about a drunken goddess? Or would you like to, if you get anybody that's doing exams, like to help anybody in exams?
Drunken goddess sounds
Drunken goddess
interesting.
sounds, well, here, we'll talk about this wifey here. Right?
Yep.
So I'll go and have a wee rummage at the bottom of it. Before I volunteer these things, I should look my stuff in, shouldn't I? This is the goddess Sekhmet. You can have better eyesight than me. You'll be able to work out how old she is. Can you see it? Okay. I'll show you this wee thing here. She's lost her feet, I'm afraid. This is Sekhmet. Right, hold her like that. Look at fingers. There we go. That's Sekhmet with her sun disk on her head. And that's telling you that she's the daughter of the sun god Ra. If you're a wee bit taller than me, you'll see there's a space up at the top there.
Yep.
Right. The story goes that her father, and the other gods, but mainly her father Ra, was getting fed up with humankind, only showing them enough respect, right? And so he decides to send Sekhmet down to Earth to kill a few of them, just to teach them a lesson, bring them back into line. Unfortunately, she gets the taste for blood, and she starts killing, and she kills, and she kills, and she kills so many folk that he's up there worrying that there's going to be nobody left worship him. So he comes up with a plan. And what he does is, when she's asleep beside a field at night, he gets 7,000 barrels of beer and he dyes them red with ochre and he floods the field. So when she wakes up in the morning, what does she see? Blood. And she starts to drink, and she drinks and she drinks and she drinks. She drinks so much, she is as pissed as a newt. Has no idea, no thought at all about killing anybody, right? No. So, killing stops and mankind is saved. She's a lioness, she's a tough woman, right? She's the goddess of war, one of the goddesses of war for the Egyptians. Soldiers, when they come back from manoeuvres or come back from war, hold festivals in her honour. What do? They get pissed, right? That's part of the scheme, right? To forget the war, to forget what they've been doing. That's one of the things. This is a lovely piece. We actually have another piece down in the cell in the thing that has a disc, but it's a heavier piece, and I think they think it would need supporting under that, and they're not willing to spend the money to do that. Mm-hmm. She was also a protectress. If you think of a lioness and her cubs, and so she was also the goddess of health. Right? If people were unwell, they would go to Sekhmet's temples to pray to improve their health and to protect them from plagues and things like that. Some of her priests became the first doctors. Some of the practices that were used in these temples were still being used up until the 1800s. I know it sounds difficult to believe, but I had a colleague who was a doctor who used to do the tour here, and that was one of